I want to introduce to you today's speaker, Mr. Scott Barrett. He is a Senior Director, EAM Solutions here at Utopia. Scott's technical experience spans 20 plus years, 15 of those in data governance and 10 plus years as part of SAP's Enterprise Information Management Center of Excellence. Scott works routinely with top-tier organizations in the asset-intensive industries, advising on strategies and solutions.
So again, thanks for joining us. Can't wait to talk to you guys about the utility industry and really how asset data is such a critical part of how to make sure that those networks and power plants and et cetera run at top efficiency. So as an overview on the first slide, quick, we're going to talk about how your companies are managing the generation business, the transmission business, the pipeline businesses by using their assets better. Mostly focused on SAP customers, but certainly open to others as well. And really we're going to talk about how to reduce the risk of large new capital projects, really how to make the EPC handover when you have those capital projects less painful and more seamless and productive, how to increase reliability in the plant maintenance systems, ensure you've got successful shutdowns and turnarounds, and hopefully then by this you really can understand how you can improve the quality of your enterprise asset data, decrease some risk, and ensure you're best leveraging SAP systems, including plant maintenance, material manager, and other key systems inside of SAP. So who are Utopia and why am I and they talking to you about asset data? Utopia has been around about, 13, 14 years now, focused exclusively or primarily, I should say, on the SAP customers. And really, then since our inception, focused on improving the data of data assets, not just the asset data of SAP customers, and really helping customers work with things like developing a data governance strategy, actually cleaning up data, whether it be customer data, asset data, material data, and really just working across a variety of companies. What I think is really interesting with joining Utopia is that the company over its life cycle looked up a few years ago and realized that most of the significant projects we were undertaking and the types of companies we were working with more and more regularly were really in the asset-intensive industry. So, basically, if you, make something, generate something, dig something out of the ground, or dig something out of the ground and then make or generate something out of it, and, probably one of our top-tier customers. So it's really an area that we developed a deep expertise in. So you tend to kind of focuses more and more to being a solutions house as opposed to a general consulting organization. Typically SAP, typically asset intensive, and typically and focused on this part of the business. So it's something that we think we're very good at, and our clients do as well. So as a result of that, a couple of years ago, SAP came to us and said, look, we've got this great master data platform called Master Data Governance, and we have some domains that we rolled it out to, like finance and customer and vendor and material, but we'd like to support some other areas, and you guys have this great expertise in this area, which you guys actually partner with us and help us build out the asset domain for Master Data Governance. And so as we go through the presentation a bit later, we'll get back to that, but that's one of the real things that we've done that we think is really interesting is help build the software product that SAP sells, they support, but it's something that we brought to market and do an awful lot of work in terms of data work around it with customers. So it's a very interesting relationship. Only about 25 partners out of 4,000 are allowed to have a product in SAP's price list. So we feel very fortunate to be in those kind of ranks, and we'll talk to you about how those solutions because of that can help improve your asset data. So that's Utopia and a bit on us. So one of the things we've done that have made us very successful and our clients very successful in terms of attacking this is develop very robust methodologies. We have dozens of them around data migration initiatives, data cleansing initiatives, EPC handover sorts of things, including plant walkdowns and other activities like that. But they all sort of fit into this notion of build out the right solution and business rules and functional requirements so that the company can address all the needs it has of its key data. Then we go through an exercise of helping organizations fix that data. We may profile the data, we may enrich it if we need to, using web sources or own proprietary sources of information. And a big part of the work these days is dealing with how to get data that's in unstructured format, documents, for example. How do we get that kind of data into a structured format, into the right capabilities so it can be loaded or load ready into an SAP system, a plant maintenance system, a material master manager, whatever the case may be. And then finally, and this is kind of learnings from us, working with a platform like MDG to be able to sustain the quality of that data and monitor and report off of it and be sure that it stays clean and doesn't just get cleaned up once. So really, all the methodology we offer fall in this overall umbrella of building up the right sets of business rules and requirements, fixing the data based on those, and then handing over those business rules and fundamental SAP technology platforms like data services, information steward, and MDG, so the companies can then sustain those gains over time and improve upon them even further. So let's focus in a bit and let's talk about asset master data governance and how that's really important in the utility industry. So there's 5 key drivers. Thank you for the 5, Mr. Kind of right, around companies really embracing a data governance strategy for this sort of thing. The first one is capital projects, so we're building something new and big. The second one is shutdowns and turnarounds. We're having to actually shut the facility down for a few days. Turbines got to spin down. We got to do the kind of maintenance you can only do in a run to fail kind of mode or a run to zero kind of mode. And how do we ensure that when we do that, we can plan it as expeditiously as possible and execute it as quickly as possible and don't overrun every second. The facility's not running, you're losing money or having to put additional load on the system. The third one is operational excellence, which is we just want to be better at our jobs. We would like to actually focus on making our plants run better, our people more productive, and therefore be much more efficient and decreasing the overall cost to do something like this. So operational excellence is always a key thing. M&A is a big one. I met with company today. This is big one for them. They're routinely bringing on new acquisitions, offloading new acquisitions, and how to bring those facilities, typically that are run by this organization, into or off of the platform like MDG or plant maintenance is a big piece. And the final one is really thinking about things like decreasing costs by effectively managing your maintenance spare inventory systems. If you don't have a system in place like MDG EAM, you may go out there and the mentality in the plants is often, well, I need to have one of everything or 6 of everything because I don't quite know what's going to break. I'm not quite sure which things I have out there in the generation facility, in the hydro facility, whatever it may be, along my pipeline routes or my power line routes. So I better have lots and lots of stuff just in case. And if you really have a good handle on your data, you really know what you have in your spares, what's being stored. And even, we had a customer recently that was like, look, by implementing MDG for enterprise asset management, I was actually able to reduce my spare parts even further because I always knew that as long as I had a certain class of parts that were within a one-day truck ride away from another facility, I didn't necessarily even need to keep one at every facility. I keep one at every other facility or whatever the case may be. So real strong drivers there. So let's talk through a few of those. So let's talk about capital projects. This is a biggie. I mean, when you're a utility and you've got to build a new generation facility, you've got to replace. I was talking with SAP colleague this week who is doing work with one of the waterworks companies, and they're doing a significant overhaul of the entire Victorian era London sewer system. These are big projects, lots of money, very, very important. So if you can figure out how to even save 1%, a capital project, that adds up in a hurry. And we've seen that with savings of $1 million on a $100 million construction project. What if it's $1 billion construction project? So recently, I'm actually heading out there in a few days, back out to the Middle East. I was working with a utility out there that's, by the time we began talking to them, they'd already were 25% of the way of actually production ready. They had 1 turbine out of 4 up and running of a turbine power facility. And again, and this is a very common theme right now, they really need help in handling the EPC data handover. And the reason why is the thing I mentioned earlier. The engineering, procurement, and construction company actually building out their facility. When they're finished, they literally, one of their contractual requirements is to deliver all the documents, for the various, every component inside that generation facility. And so the way they typically do that is in documents. So they have maintenance plans, they have all sorts of P&ID diagrams. They have all these different things, and somehow that data must get from those documents into load-ready format so it can go into SAP plant maintenance so they can begin maintaining those things. And that work is not part of the EPC's job. Their job is to build the factory the refinery, build the power plant, and say, okay, we're done. It's working. You did it. Here you go. And so we're actually doing a lot of work with these guys to help extract the data using the SAP data services and our own methodologies built on top of that and solutions. Enriching the data, so our people go out and actually will pull in manufacturing information that can't be garnered in that way, or specific information about the capacities of the systems or the pieces of equipment. We'll actually go out and do that. Things like generating, one of the most important things I've learned is from the plant maintenance side is having consistent long and short text descriptions, not letting them be free form, but actually so that the maintenance workers can quickly look at their work orders, look at their task list, and know what they're dealing with. Not trying to decode serial numbers, whatever the case may be. So generating consistent descriptions, and then finally getting the data loaded in the plant maintenance. So it's a very, very big project we're working on right now with these guys. But again, capital projects are certainly a great time to do this, whether they're greenfield, brownfield, or whatever the case may be. So operational excellence. This is another one. Just trying to in this time of tight money in many cases. How do you run the business better, and how do you run it more efficiently, which translates typically into cheaper. Big hydro facility that we've been working with. We actually began talking to their folks that are actually doing the maintenance, running plant maintenance, and come to find out that their standard working model, they have, I don't know, one or two SAP system, plant maintenance systems running on a desktop somewhere, in sort of an office, maybe somewhere in the factory, or the facility in this case. And the workers would go in there, get their next order out their task list, print it out on a piece of paper, go out on their bicycle, typically, to with the parts they needed to go do routine maintenance or to fix something that was actually broken. They would actually write down, make notes on a piece of paper when they were finished, go back to where they started, input all the finished information and submit it back into plant maintenance, and then hit the button and you print out the next piece of paper. Clearly very inefficient, not great. What if the second thing they had to fix was 10 feet from the first thing they had to fix, but they had to spend 15 minutes or 30 minutes each way going to get back to the computer. So these guys have a big project around operational excellence, and it's focused on ruggedized mobile devices, technologies like Fiori from SAP, so they can visualize, even maybe some GIS or so they can put, or even documents management with OpenText, so they can pull up the work documents that they need to fix the item right there on their tablets. So as part of all that, getting the data right, making sure it's very legible and in a consistent format is a key part of that. So they're working with us and with UTE. We talked about shutdowns, turnarounds. This was a big part of that, and so another generation facility we worked with. They'd been in production with their phase one generation plant, which they had come to find out that due to timing issues with rolling that out, they actually only had 3 fields populated in plant maintenance, and a serial number field and 2 other numeric fields. And so essentially they had spent 7 years running, ad hoc basis. The system really wasn't giving them what they needed. So the folks in the operations stuff said, yeah, when we go to phase 2 here and double the capacity we have here for generation, we've got to get it right. We've got to get all the data into plant maintenance, get everything in there correctly. And one of the main reasons why is they do a huge amount of deferred maintenance on shutdowns and turnarounds, and they were doing it all by hand or in Excel. So planning it took about 6 months. And then once they actually began to do it, they planned to do it in 2 or 3 days or a week, but they'd end up taking 2 or 3 times that amount because they'd show up to fix something, they did the wrong thing, they wouldn't have the right spare parts, they had to do something else, and they wouldn't plan it out, or they'd really see something that wasn't in great shape that they hadn't planned to fix, and they'd go ahead and fix that. So generally facilities, cost wrap up very quickly, every hour, every day. These places aren't up and running on shutdown. And finally, the last example I mentioned earlier was the MRO spare parts inventory. I was just actually at the utility show a few weeks ago, and we had one of our customers on stage that had deployed MDG EAM, and they were speaking about this exact issue. They're actually live with it right now. And they were focused on the increasing the efficiency across really the whole supply chain. They were doing Master Data Governance for vendors. They'd already done that, suppliers, the vendor onboarding process. So they want to know how many paper clips they were buying and get a better deal on paper clips and all those classic supply chain sorts of things. But they also wanted to focus on the production side of things. And I was stunned. The gentleman got on stage and said that now if they have MDG EAM in place, just from that part of the business alone, by the reduction of their overall spare parts inventory for maintenance operations, they estimated they were going to save $10 million a year or $100 million over 10 years by implementing the system. It was a huge number. I really didn't expect them to come out and say that, but really, really significant savings to be had there. So, hope that helps. There's a few real-world examples of customers that we actively have worked with or are working with around some of these major challenges, and maybe some of those resonate with you guys. This is a quick one, but this is a survey from a couple of years ago that said the average time allocation, the average North American maintenance worker spends about a third of their time actually fixing stuff. They spend a chunk of that time waiting on what they need. They spend a chunk of that time waiting on the right tools they may not have. But mostly, they're spending their time waiting for someone to tell them what to do, trying to dig up a manual they need or a parts diagram, really trying to get the information, find out, hey, one guy knows how to fix this thing and he's off this week. So all the different things that go into basically just waiting around for the right kind of information, given the right format so they can better do their jobs. And these are numbers that could easily be improved by having good, consistent data and something like SAP plant maintenance. On top of that, at this point, what we've been talking about is basically what's going on inside of SAP, what's going on inside of PM and MM and some of those systems. But in the real world, you actually have situations where it's much more complicated. Everything on Earth starts as an engineering drawing, and you've got an engineering system out there with CAD/CAM representations. The exploded parts diagrams often are created in this system. So somewhere out there, there's an engineering system that's being run by the company. We've already talked about the fact that a lot of the data comes in as documents. So there's typically some kind of enterprise content management system out there. For a lot of companies, it's SharePoint. And I would argue this isn't a terribly robust content management system, but it is a content management system of some description. Maybe it's a more robust one like, Attained ECM by Enterprise Content Management by OpenText, which is another endorsed partner of SAP, similar to Utopia's EAM solution. And then there's the SAP system itself. You may even have a GIS system out there somewhere. So the question is not only how do I, deal with all the data in these disparate places, how can I all tie it and link it together? So let's talk about how all this stuff works together. Typically in a plant maintenance system, you guys probably know this better than I do. You usually start with a piece of equipment. So if we're talking about a pump, inside your SAP plant maintenance or whatever EAM system that you're using, your equipment object is going to have all the top-level holistic information about the pumps. You have the serial number, what kind of pump is it, maybe flow characteristics, what it's made out of, and really gives you the first view of pumps across your enterprise. And all this information helps create a complete picture of the pump as a whole. And if you don't have this information, like our friends before with the serial number, you may not even know. You might know it's a pump, but that might be all you know. And as the picture shows, these are two radically different kinds of pumps that you may come to find once you go out to do some work on it. So at the top level, you got to make sure you got all these equipment characteristics correct. Then you move into functional location. So functional location really, once you have your equipment, you know the what, and Phlox will give you the where. And it's not always a geographic, a GIS type of structure. It's a logically coded structure, with a lot of descriptors, and people that really know it well can decode it in their brains, know where it is, what factory, what part of the factory, what functional area it works in, etc. And the Phlox are important for work orders, for dispatch, GIS integration, all the different things. If you've got big facilities, or if you're a utility with poles or underground pipes or whatever the case may be, routing your workers efficiently can decrease your overall cost by or number of workers you need by 20 to 25% in your maintenance crews. So again, really critical to get your Phlox consistent and filled out and in the system. And then you get into your actual MRO bills and materials, and this is going to give you, be your link over to your MM system, details all the parts of the pump, and it's really plays a critical role again in spare parts inventory management, even visualization using something like SAP Visual Enterprise perhaps, building up UNID diagrams about your engineering systems. So lots of different reasons you need to see, how these sort of breakdowns occur, and these are usually documents as well. So your MRO bill of materials become important on top of that. So what this leads to, again, as we talk about, you've got your engineering system has one view of what it thinks a pump is. Your plant maintenance system in the bottom right-hand corner has another view of what it defines as a pump. There's a bunch of documents in your document management system that they think they all have the best description of what pumps are. And these can all be, different formats, different data formats, different document formats. And somehow, some way, you've got to tie all this together because all these things really are pumps. And in a perfect world, you'd have them all available at hand, typically in your system of record, in this case SAP, so that you can actually say, okay, in my SAP system, I can see all my descriptions, my equipment, my clocks, my bombs, et cetera, my task list, my work orders that didn't apply to these things, how many of them I've got in my facility, what happens if I decrement a new one or something's obsolescence, I've got to replace them all. But also need to see this other stuff too, and I shouldn't have to go to another system to do that. And even something like MDG for EAM allows you to see all that in one place, so we can actually link in the document system, the engineering system, the GIS system, and give you a single view of that particular object. And the way we do that is by building on top of SAP's Master Data Governance solution, or MDG. MDG is something that SAP's had on the market for a number of years now, 7, 8 years at least. And it's an ABAP-enabled solution, so it sits directly as part of your core ECC system. If you've got ECC sitting out there of any recent-ish age, in the last 8 years, you've actually got MDG already resident inside the system. It's just not enabled. And so MDG provides the platform that provides essentially for each data domain that it supports. It provides a set of workflows for which you can request, you can augment, and you can approve different requests for various types of actions and auditing. It includes a data model that plugs into the right part of SAP, so you don't have to replicate a lot of data structures, which is the challenge with like older technology like SAP's NetWeaver and MDM. So there's a lot of replication that goes on, and a lot of customization of the system goes on versus just configuration, whereas MDG is typically just a configuration kind of situation. But the nice thing is the platform is very consistent. It works across multiple domains. And again, we partnered with SAP to build the asset domain on top of MDG. So very, very mature product, MDG. The asset domain and data model and workflows are new additions to that late last year, excuse me. But at the end of the day, it's not really a new product. It's a product that's been around for a long time and deployed by dozens of customers. Different objects that are available for MDG Enterprise Asset Management, or you can just say MDG Assets if you want to make it easier. That's what I used to do. And you can see that it includes things like equipment, flocks, MRO bills and materials. Linear asset management and utilities is a very big piece. So how do you effectively manage your linear assets, be they power lines, be they underground pipelines, underground sewer lines. Just talking to customers this week about old iron pipes and a big program of work to replace all those and make sure they do it right. All those different sorts of maintenance plans, et cetera. All different objects that are covered under the MDG assets domain. So the other nice thing about Master Data Governance for Assets is it's tightly in line with all your ISO standards. So ISO has things like, you should plan, do, check, act, and we fully support that along with SAP and MDG. Not only ISO 55000, but ISO 14224. And basically the way the product works, as we just talked about, is you have kind of requesters who say, yes, I'd like to make a change, or I need to do something, whatever it might be, a piece of equipment. And then there are specialists and stewards that can work and build out those requests and confirm that they actually are needed in the system. And have a very efficient way to work through those, whether it's one at a time or big catalog change or whatever the case may be. And then finally, there's someone that actually says, yep, this looks like it's something we need, and I'll approve this. I can't make any changes to it, but I can actually approve it. So all that works very nicely in an ISO structure. I think I've talked ahead a little bit, but really we were talking about that builder, specialist, steward sort of mentality. These are ISO sort of concepts. In MDG, we normally call this a requester, a specialist, and a specialist or a steward, and an approver. But it's the base set, requester, approver, these basic same concepts. So fully compliant with these standards. And this is the way that MDG for assets wraps itself around PM, and MDG for materials will wrap itself around MM, so that you can provide sort of a data quality firewall to prevent bad data going in, making sure it follows all the right business rules, giving you a fully auditable trail for how it occurs, and really ensure that your data that you work, hopefully, hard to get clean and consistent, stays that way over time. So MDG also provides that level of comfort with the system overall. So inside of MDG, as I mentioned, you can do kind of one-at-a-time processing, which is sort of like, hey, I need something new, or hey, I found something that's wrong and think it should be fixed in the system. And people can request that. They can go into a standard SAP portal or workflow and make that kind of request. The good news is we have multiple objects need processing. You can do it via spreadsheet, or you can do it via text file, or several different methods, so that you can actually do the same sort of process with many records at a time. That's about as far as we're going to cover that, but just so you know, that's the basic functioning of how MDG goes through its different master data functions, be it for equipment, MRO bombs, blocks, whatever it is you're working with. Yeah, absolutely. Real quickly here, guys. The point being is that from MDG, because of that picture we showed you with the different systems, we do have full GIS integration into your actual, your Latlongo, Esri, whatever, Google, whatever your mapping system may be. And the point being is it's bidirectional, so you can be inside your specialist screen and inside of MDG and see on a map very quickly where all your different power transformers may be in a particular area, which could be very useful as trying to pinpoint something. Or conversely, as I said, you can actually be out in the field using GIS as your primary interface, which helps lead you to the thing you need to fix. And if you see a problem, you can touch within the GIS system, pop up a very simple little sub-screen from MDG, fill out a bit of information, and that immediately creates a work order for one of your specialists to go fix the problem. I showed up and it was the wrong type of transformer, or the wrong type of pole, or wrong type of pipe, or whatever problem they may see in the field. You want them to report that and make it as easy for them as possible, so they don't have to jot it down and do it later. They can do it in real time, starting with the GIS system. So as I talked about, for EPC handover and lots of stuff we do, it all starts with documents. But you also want to make sure that again, when you're in the create process, you want to see all the documents that have come in that you now want to link back to that structured data that you're creating. And we can do that from within MDG. Again, at the bottom of the screen here, you can see at the bottom is an actual open text integration. You can certainly do that with other systems, but open text is by far the easiest and most integrated because of their integration points into ECC from their side. And you could actually, if you're actually a document person, you can actually go from the open text system and work directly into MDG as well. So all this stuff we're covering is bidirectional. So just to finish up, this is really as much about the overall data governance or master data governance from SAP. At the end of the day, fantastic solution for SAP-centric companies. As I showed you, it doesn't have to be all SAP. We know that people have other systems out there. But if you're sort of an SAP-first kind of organization, that's where your PM data is mainly in there. It's okay if you got some Maximo or something else, but the PM should probably be in play. And really, MDG comes in and allows you to govern your data effectively, and give you a lot of auditing around that, and make sure that you maintain that consistent data that hopefully you work hard to put together. It can integrate out of the box with lots of different systems. It's very easy to reuse the core SAP data model, so you're not having to input those somewhere else. It's very flexible, and it's very configurable as opposed to customizable. We were having a conversation about that today with a client that they're like, look, it's either configuration or customization. I was talking about MDG, and I said, well, it's really about configuration for almost anything you want, so it reduces the amount of ABAP or whatever type of customization you need to do. And then it can link back into other data platforms like data services or information steward to do additional cleanup and enrichment and dashboarding as well. So there's integration across the whole SAP Enterprise Information Management Suite. It's kind of a natural lead into this one, which is a couple more slides, and I think we're done here. This is what SAP presents as their full suite of enterprise information management solutions. We talked about data services. We talked about open text. We talked a little bit about information steward and in MDG. So this really helps all that fit together very nicely. Now, from a roadmap standpoint, if you talk to the utilities teams and the value maps, we fit right in as part of the asset network and the utility value mapping. So we help a lot with collaboration and governance of asset information. We tie in with the asset information network that's being rolled out at SAP, I think early next year. I'm a bit confused on the date, but that's really taking sort of the Reba type of concept and applying it to product data, material data, spare parts data. So it's really creating a network that can more easily update SAP with changes that happen from their suppliers on this side of the house, on the asset side of the house. So we're a big part of that and work in tight conjunction with those guys. So again, this is something that's very, very tightly integrated strategically with SAP, not just from a product standpoint. And last slide is pretty much just some quick contact information. So if you have any questions that we don't address today, or you'd like someone from SAP or Utopia and SAP, or even just Utopia to come spend some time talking to you about the challenges you may have with your asset data, we'd be more than happy to do that. So.
The first question is, can MDG for EAM help with EPC handover for a new generation facility?
Oh, well, they must have asked that one early in the presentation or beforehand. I think that was one of our beforehand. That had to be one of our beforehand questions because we definitely covered that in the presentation. I think we had a good customer, real-life customer example or a couple of them. And also talked about, again, the thing that I don't think companies think about much, which is there's lots of times you need to get data out of an unstructured system into a structured system. You don't usually need to manage your documents on the left-hand side and your structure or database, ready data on the right-hand side. So how do you get the data from one to the other is usually important. And then how do you link those documents back into the system? And showed you how that works in MDG. So yeah, great question.
Does MDG support SAP HANA?
Another interesting question, one that just came up a few weeks ago. So MDG, yes, MDG Asset Management or MDG in general does support a HANA database. But from my experience, even going back to my SAP days, outside of the customer domain, which could get into the many millions or hundreds of millions of records, MDG often did not need HANA to be successful because you're storing your master data objects typically, which are hundreds of thousands or millions of objects, which HANA is great for, but not necessarily required. However, we are just finishing up some work for a customer of ours that is actually a utility, and they're upgrading from MDG Material 5.0, and they want to upgrade. Initially, it's going to be to 7.0, which is the current shipping release of MDG. But they gave us a list of functional requirements that are coming from their users after 18, 24 months of happily using MDG. But now, those darn users, they always want stuff to work better and easier and better searching and things like that. So we got about 20 functional requirements from them. And come to find out that we did a bunch of analysis, the MDG 7.0 release could do about, I don't know, 8 or 9 of those, help them with pretty easily through configuration and not a huge amount of external coding. Then MDG 8, which is currently in ramp up, and we had pretty good access to it early because of our development status with SAP Solution Extension. And we looked at 8 by itself, and it could do 2 or 3 more of the things they wanted, sort of out of the box. So that got them to about 11 or 12 out of 20 requirements. But then we actually took a look at MDG 8 on HANA, and for the first time in my experience, SAP had embedded enough new functionality at the application layer, because HANA is not only a scalable database, but it's an application platform, such that they could meet all their requirements. Or actually, I think I got 19 out of 20 without the 20th one was pretty much a custom coding job that we just recommended they not do, bang for their buck. But if they went to MDG on HANA, 8.0 on HANA, they got all the functionality they wanted. That's because SAP is now, just after several years now, is really building up enough low-end chunks of functionality that's repeatable, like data quality, data cleansing, data integration, Trex searching, natively, those sorts of things into the HANA platform. But it actually, really can effectively support an application like MDG and add value beyond just the scalability and speed that people may associate with HANA. So yeah. And then, sorry, the last thing, I know it's a long answer, but it's something that's pretty cool, I think. And the last thing is, many companies today are looking for nice use cases for HANA before they maybe look at something like S4HANA or moving their entire ECC suite over to a HANA platform. And because most customers deploy MDG sort of in a sidecar or a hub model where they don't run it directly on their native ECC instance, it's a great place to get HANA deployed in your environment and have it stood up, especially if it's a cloud structure to run on top of. So, sorry, long answer, but good question. Thanks.
What's the relationship between Utopia and SAP? I'm a bit confused.
Yeah, that's a good question too. It's funny, even inside of SAP, how many times people talk about the product by Utopia, or Utopia can do this or that. The thing I would encourage you guys to do is just think of MDG as being the SAP Data Governance Platform, Master Data Platform. That platform has different domains that you can buy, and that's actually how it's licensed. If you talk to SAP, it's by the financial domain, how many objects are within that domain. Excuse me. And what Utopia did is just build out another domain for SAP that's sold by SAP, that's on their price list, that is just essentially the exact same thing as any of the other domains except it's for assets. So that, on the one hand, is our relationship. You should just think of it as another SAP product. We just happen to be the ones that built it and the ones that are very, very good at talking about it with customers because of our background. On the other hand, we are a very strong implementation partner of SAP. I think we've done probably more MDG implementations than any other partner out there, including some of the top-tier integrators. And the cleanup work that goes around these sorts of things is something we're also very good at. So we're happy to engage strictly on the product side. We're happy to engage just on the services side. But typically, the most value we bring to organizations is sort of that strategic solutions partner that can do some of both.
Is SAP MDG compatible with IS utilities?
Oh, wow. I got to think about that one for a second. So, as I remember it, ISU is a utility-specific customer management platform that SAP produces. So probably it's built on top of the SAP CRM platform with some other stuff added in. So I hope I got that right. I wish I could actually have a conversation maybe to confirm. That's what you're asking. But anyway, assuming that's the case, the answer is absolutely, because all of that is based on ECC, as we've already talked about. MDG is based on ECC and is going to have all the same, access to all the same structures. It might be that MDG for customer would be, highly appropriate in that environment as well, because that's going to have many of the underlying data structures related to customer management or end user management exposed and ready to work with there. So although I don't know the link MDG customer and MDG asset together, in this case, those would be the two domains that I would look at in terms of how to make that ISU platform more effective or better data, et cetera. But the short answer is absolutely MDG hooks right into that. MDG asset, sort of. I guess it really is more typically related to plant maintenance and MDG materials, right? And MDG customer will be tightly related to CRM, of course. But I think across that, absolutely, it could help you.
Okay, this is the last question that we currently have. What is the relationship to the linear asset location as stored in Maximo and the linear asset stored in a GIS?
Good question. So the question again is the relationship between a linear asset that may be in SAP plant maintenance or in this case in Maximo and one that lives somewhere else like in a GIS system. So as you know, linear assets are managed a bit differently than regular assets, but it is an object class that we support in MDG EAM. So the first point would be that would be the place to start with making sure that you get all the data right around linear assets in your SAP system. And then through the synchronization, harmonization functions within SAP, you would correlate that back to your Maximo system. And it sort of depends on whether you're moving to a more SAP-centric landscape, or Maximo is sort of really is your EAM sort of system of record. If that's the case, then Maximo can be the driver, and you can certainly build integration points, or we can, to let Maximo then create the work orders to do things inside of SAP MDG for EAM. And then the relationship, and then as we said, there's a very easy sort of translation mechanism that lets us take the linear asset data that I showed on the screenshot, and we can certainly show it to you more like demo, to take the linear asset information you have in SAP or Maximo, and then translate that into a specific point on a GIS map, and you can do that bidirectionally, so it can feed the map, or a map can feed it back the other way.